Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation, brought to you by the great folks over at Zephyr Epic. You can use promo code Hockey Season, capital H, capital S, all one word, Hockey Season. That will get you $5 off your order at ZephyrEpic.com. ZEPHYR Epic. Check them out on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. They've got you covered for all of your trading card needs, so be sure to go check them out.
We got a hit.
Free shipping on any order over $50 Canada-wide. Or you can, like my co-host here, Chris Faber, go out to the Surrey location, pick up a pack. We got a hit. You said it's a hit, and it's an Oliver Ekman-Larsson card?
Nope. That was just in their Canucks card. Also, this, I feel like, I already miss Alex, but Jake Sanderson, he was supposed to be good. I don't think he's been that good for the Ottawa Senators so far, but a Young Guns of Jake Sanderson, so that's a good card. We'll keep that to the side. And an OEL card. So say what you want about that card.
David Quadrelli, alongside Chris Faber.
Yep.
Technical producer is Aaron Bordato. I'm back in person. We did a Patreon last week, patreon.com/Canucks Convo. Talk some baseball on that. That was a lot of fun. I'm back in person. I think from here on out, I'm back in person because the little birdie boy, shout out Bert.
Yep.
5 months old today.
No, I guess we can still get a Bert cam because you just have your little.
I do. I could still get my Bert cam. I probably should check on him, but he's fine. He's so good. He just stays in his crate.
He's looking huge. You sent me a photo today.
Yeah.
The size of this dog here.
The big unit.
He's a unit. He's a big boy. I asked anybody in the chat here what they were up to this weekend. Anything fun? Chris French says a 7-year-old birthday party. That could be fun. Depends if you're the 7-year-old. I'm sure the 7-year-old had a lot of fun at that. Quads, how was your weekend?
Is the bouncy castle adult friendly? Because I went to the Vancouver Canadians game last week.
Nice.
As I flashed the Bert cam here. The camera woke him up a little bit, but he's back sleeping.
Yep.
I went to the Vancouver Canadians game last weekend, and I don't know if you ever did this because you're an island kid, but you remember they still have it, the play zone for kids.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever got to experience that. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun there. Not this past week when I was a kid.
Right.
I mean, but I noticed it's not adult friendly, so I didn't have fun this past week. But I should have put it in the work tape or whatever. But I got a giant pretzel, the $18 pretzel at Nat Bailey Stadium. I got it by accident because I sent my brother to go get me a pretzel, and I was going to get hot dogs and fries for both of us. I did that, but then he's like, the pretzel's huge, right? And he had already bought it at that point. I said, no, I didn't know that. So I did a number on my body last week at the Nat Bailey Stadium.
The last 5 years, pretzels have kind of taken over nachos from that point of view. Like if you're going, whether it's like a bar or a baseball game or a hockey game, like I feel like pretzels, the big ones. I'm not talking like the little bite-sized ones. I'm talking the ones that you're talking about.
Yeah, big dough.
Those, the big doughy pretzels. I feel like they've kind of taken over nachos. It's been more specifically like chips in that dirty old cheese sauce. Like that used to be that for a long time. That ran like when I was going to Nanaimo Clippers games when I was a kid, you'd get that for like $3.50 back in the day. It was the chips and the dirty nacho cheese, but I feel like the pretzels have really taken over.
The pretzel came with a cheese dip.
Yeah, it does. Beer cheese, right?
I don't know. I don't know if this was beer cheese. I'm pretty sure this is a little closer to what you were just describing when I went to Nat Bailey. But hey, Vancouver Canadians, get out there, folks. Shout out to the Canadians.
Yeah, I got my hat right here, actually.
Yeah, I should have worn mine today. I'm wearing the Padres, who, by the way, quickly off the top, I'm starting a baseball podcast coming out Friday with Mike Liu. Padres have the same batting average as the Oakland Athletics, who are like the worst baseball team ever this year. But anyways, no more baseball talk here.
Karan in the chat says nachos over pretzels any day. I think it all depends. Like if you have good nachos, but what I'm talking about is that dirty cheese sauce and those stale chips, the round ones. I think you take the big pretzel all the time over that. But I get what you're saying. If it's a bag of pretzels versus like good nachos, nachos will win. But I just think the way that it's the last 5 years, it's made a big time change here. I was on the island for the weekend, did some golfing. Shout out to the Campbell River Golf Club. They got this. They got the Velocity driving range, so it's like not same kind of deal as like a Top Golf where you hit the balls and it tracks it.
Yeah,
it's got how far you went, which way you're going, like side to side, like ball speed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was cool. There's like a mode where you were just hitting it for the long drive competition, and it just had like a football field, and they were showing how far you're hitting it down the football field. So you had to keep it in the fairway and stuff. And I tell you, man, all week long, because I golfed last weekend, horrible. I was the worst I've ever played. All week this past week, I'm watching TikToks, I'm watching YouTube videos, I'm doing the grip things, and absolutely piping on Saturday.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you shoot?
Well, we were playing best ball, so the score doesn't really matter, but I carried my whole team.
Nice.
We were a team of 3. The other 2 teams were teams of 4. And I had 3 birdies all by myself. Like we're playing best ball, but all 3 of the like we had 5 birdies on the day or something. 3 of them were just pure my shots. And that Campbell River Golf Club out there, gorgeous. I loved it out there in Campbell River. It was a blast. And now I come back here. My fiance's off on her bachelorette party, so I'm by myself for 10 days.
And how is that going so far?
I was, a little bit. I was looking forward to just being by myself. I like being by myself. But last, I was a little lonely. I came back from a weekend away, and I was like, if your fiance is not there yet, I was a little lonely last night, if I'm being 100% honest.
So I've had this a few times. Like
you get all excited because you're like, I get my space,
pumped.
I get everything, and then I was, I'm going to bed last night. And I don't know. I had to sleep with the door open and the TV on to act like there was still someone here.
Wow. Yeah, no, I feel you. Like, well, personally, I like having the bed to myself. I like just spreading out. I like that part. I'm saying, like, I'm like, oh man, girlfriend's away. She's going away. She's going to where's she going? So, Stampede, this Calgary Stampede thing.
Stampede, yep.
She's going with a bunch of her friends, and I'm like, oh, weekend away, all that. But like, anytime she's gone, I'm like, huh. I was excited to play video games. I was excited to do this, but it's like, I would like to, like, talk to her, play Mario Kart, play Scrabble, do one of those things we do, They say that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So she's gone. She's across the damn country. She's off her bachelorette's in Newfoundland. So she couldn't get further away from me if she tried. But anyways, let's get to some hockey stuff. I know you're very passionate. I'm
about
so
this.
fired up about this.
You were texting me all Sunday telling me, hey, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. Because I'll be honest. I had too many drinks on Saturday on the golf course. The front 9 was incredible. Back 9, let's not talk about it because I don't remember it. But let's talk about the salary cap, because I believe this dropped on Saturday, right? This is when the news came out, or was it Sunday? The NHL salary cap only going up $1 million. We had Frank on the show last week. He was pretty confident that all parties wanted it to go up more than $1 million. Gary Bettman sure poured some cold water on that fire by saying it's going to go up only around $1 million. What's going on here, Quads? And I know you want to go in on this, so rant away. I know that you're not happy about the $1 million. I don't think anybody. That's the part that I asked Frank this question last week. Who wins from a $1 million raise in the salary cap? And he said, like, nobody. Everybody gains from more of the salary cap going up. So I'm confused. You know more than this than I do. So go ahead on this.
It is a joke, is the easiest way to put it. You ask who wins? The NHL, in some fricked up way, wins from this, because they're going to bring something to the bargaining table when it comes to all this sort of crap. Right. We already know this. That's what Frank said. He said, yeah, it benefits everybody if the cap goes up, but if it doesn't, the NHL has some sort of bargaining chip, and it's going to help them down the line. So now the cap is going to go up by $1 million, and we're expecting, but who the hell knows, a sharp increase the following season, 2024-25, which notably is when the Canucks have to pay Elias Pettersson on his new extension.
There it is. Up
now at CanucksArmy.com. Shout out Stefan Roger. Wrote something about what that extension might look like. In the meantime, in the 2023-24 season, the cap is only going to go up by $1 million, $83.5 million. And for those at home, Canucks cap situation is still looking bad with that increase, okay? What this does, beyond just, crying, oh, the Canucks, blah, 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 what this does is for the workers, the players in this league are now going to get less money. The ones that are entering free agency are going to get less money. The ones that are entering free agency are going to have fewer teams interested in them. Mm-hmm. The players that are already on teams that are on otherwise decent to good contracts are at risk of getting bought out. The winger market, or just the trade market in general for good players, is significantly lower. It's going to be what it's been in the last 2 years. You're not going to see big movement. You're going to see wingers and whoever going for pennies on the dollar in terms of acquisition cost, because teams with cap space are going to be doing those teams a favor, because a lot of teams now need the cap space. It is ridiculous. In the same press conference where Gary Bettman dropped this on people, He was bragging about the revenues that the NHL was generating, and we're doing so well right now, actually, or whatever it was he said. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous that the NHL is taking this route and only increasing it by $1 million. It's a joke. It makes it horrible for fans of the game. You're not seeing any movement. How often do we talk about the NFL? Hell, we just talked about the MLB, and hell, we just talked about golf. Golf isn't a good example, but NFL and MLB. Yep. NFL has a news cycle year round. Year round, there's stuff going on with the NFL. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. All this stuff going on. Okay? You're not going to see any big movement in the offseason because the NHL, for whatever reason, has decided to shoot themselves in the foot so that they could have a chip at the bargaining table when they go against the Players Association with Marty Walsh now in his first season as NHLPA director. It is a joke. It's embarrassing. It's and this isn't even mentioning, Chris, that most of that press conference was, yes, we're going to talk to Joel Quenneville and we're going to talk to Stan Bowman and they're going to try to get reinstated or whatever it was. Oh, yes, we've wrapped up our investigation on Hockey Canada. If you are a new fan of the NHL or you're trying to convince one of your friends to start being a fan of the NHL, do you listen to that press conference and say, you know what, this is a sport that I want to check? There's going to be no player movement this offseason. All of the free agents are going to get, screwed over, quite frankly. There's going to be very minimal movement in general on the rosters. This sounds like, and there's all these scandals going on. This is a sport and a league that I definitely want to check out. This is a great, talk about growing the game. It's ridiculous. And I should mention, this is a little passionate, but I should mention the facts. 93% of the players' debt that is owed to the owners, as stated in the memorandum of understanding that was created with the pandemic, aimed at helping owners recoup the lost money that they had in the lost revenue during the pandemic. Empty buildings, all that sort of stuff. And that's clearly stated in the memorandum of understanding, is that there's going to be no significant cap increase until that debt is completely paid off. As Frank said, that debt is due to be paid off in like October or November.
Yeah, Frank said he said it was going to be like 98% by the offseason.
Exactly.
And the other thing that I found, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Bettman mentioned that like they also have to round some numbers, like count. There's still some change that they have to count too towards like the 93% that's already paid. So like, it feels like this situation of like with the salary cap that they're not moving it up. And also to me, it hurts the league because we're in a point right now where, think about it, like the middle class of free agencies has been completely eliminated. You're either a guy making, league minimum, or you're a guy making $7+ million.
And look at the free agent class. Like, look at the free agent class. It's a lot of those middle class guys.
So how are they going to get paid? Like, are they going to get paid $7 million or not get contracts at all?
I'll tell you, Chris. The Arizona Coyotes are going to be active in free agency, maybe, if they actually commit money to anybody, which that was a joke. I'm talking about teams that have the cap space. Like, hey, you know what the Chicago Blackhawks might want? A couple players to surround Connor Bedard.
There you go.
And they're going to be able to offer a lot more than a lot of other teams. Not to mention that they've got Bedard on an ELC for the next 3 years, and that gives you all the cap flexibility. The cap flexibility in the world. It's ridiculous, Chris, and I'm not even just saying this because it's a Canucks podcast. Quite frankly, I couldn't care less about the Canucks situation.
No, but let's spin it there in a second, though. Yeah,
we will in a sec. But honestly, this isn't coming from a point of I wish the Canucks had more cap space, or I wish the Canucks were in a better situation. I don't care. They got themselves in that situation. I don't really care. I care about the league and the funness of the league. Yeah. And let's spin it for a Canuck thing as we wait for Greg Balloch, who's going to join us courtesy of Zephyr Epic. Let's spin it to the Canucks for a sec, because you know what this means for a guy like Connor Garland, Chris? It means he's a prime buyout candidate. And it means that some team is probably going to scoop him up for pennies on the dollars, or the Canucks are going to trade Connor Garland, who's a pretty good player. They're going to trade him for pennies on the dollar and not really get anything back. And they're going to give up that player for pennies on the dollar.
You know what?
It's going to be one of those situations.
And it doesn't make sense, because this year, you might look at Connor Garland, or last year, and with the $1 million cap increase, you're going to look at it and be like, God, geez, I don't know if he's worth that money. But like Bettman said, we're going to have a bit like a good sized jump next year. He talked about like a regular jump in the salary cap. So let's guess like what, 4 or 6 million, somewhere in that range, especially after you're just getting a 1.
Hell, it might even be up to 9.
So then you do it again the year after. So you get 9 the year after. Connor Garland's contract is going to look really good.
Exactly.
At that point. Brock Besser's 2 years, like they're going to look good. It's just you have to eat it for another year. And it just, to me, I don't understand how a league can run like that and not have a little bit of foresight towards this season and being able to kind of balance it. Why does it have to be 1 year, $1 million this year, 6 million the next year, 8 million the next? Like, I don't understand how they can't balance that. You're a massive. You want to be one of the big 4 leagues, and the NHL just seems to make mistakes. And then you brought it up, the fact that they come out and they're kind of bragging about what they've done and the revenue that they've had this year, but they can't.
It's a joke.
Make the balance where the fans actually are impacted a little bit, where fans want to see the movement, fans want to see an exciting offseason. And we saw it like a trade deadline that made it so difficult. How often have we seen trade deadlines really in the past? I can't remember because last year felt like the past 2 seasons really, where money has to be moved with every trade.
I was in high school the last time there was a good trade deadline in the NHL.
Exactly. It's not worth it. I used to skip school back in the day. I'd fake sick every time. Every trade deadline,
I skipped a class when the Canucks traded Thomas Vanek for Tyler Mott.
That was a good day.
Because me and my friends just got together and started talking about the trade. And we were like,
we're going to see that pick in this year's draft too, I believe.
Yeah, we are.
So that's good. Speaking of the draft,
Greg Balloch.
Hold on, jeez, man, you were antsy.
Well, he's
today.
sitting waiting for us.
I know he's waiting here, but let me start here because it's Greg Balloch's going to join us here from obviously from Sportsnet. People know him from 650, the morning show, but Greg's been doing work with Elite Prospects as well. Elite Prospects today. I don't know how many pages this thing is, 1,600 pages or something ridiculous like that. They dropped their draft guide. It's incredible. I've already scanned through a lot of it. Definitely going to be diving in full time. Greg is doing the work for the goaltenders there. Greg Balloch joins us now. Laddie! Greg, how you doing, man? Jeez, what happened to the hair there? Holy cow.
I wasn't sure if you were going to go with the Laddie or Greg Balloch, so it's good to hear my actual name for once. But yeah, I also... I don't know what's going on with the hair. I just decided to grow it out. And of course, it's a very good time of the year when I'm being asked to do a lot of video podcasts. So everyone gets to witness the madness.
No, it looks good. There's some flow on it when you nod your head. So like when he's really going in on a goal, you'll see that flow. And
well, I'm also working with Cam Robinson too, and he's got the hair, right? So I gotta emulate that now.
Yeah, good luck. Jeez, that guy's got it going up. But I've seen some videos of Greg, of Cam, like owning his kids in the backyard with the water fight. Your kid's still too young for that, I guess. Yeah. Right? Greg, you're not taking shots at the
I don't know. I think you could take him. I think you could work that out.
All right, let's get into some goalies because we've spent a little bit of time just talking about one goalie because he's Italian and Quads wanted to get in on Damian Clark. But let's start with what you guys have ranked as your top goaltender in the draft. And correct me if I'm wrong with any of these because I don't care about goalies. But Trey Augustine, 6'1" guy coming out of the United States National Team Development Program. He was their starter, but I did find like there was a lot of different guys getting quite a bit of starts there. I think it was almost like a rotation of 2 players. But tell me why Trey Augustine is the number 1 goalie in your guys' ranking.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a toss-up this year, right? With who the top goalie selected is going to be, and of course, we're probably going to talk about a few of the names here. But yeah, the guy that I like the most, at least, is Trey Augustine, and it's for the reason that he's the best skater of the draft class that we have this year amongst the goalies, at least. So the fact that he's so polished in that regard just makes me very excited about his floor. Just to know that he's at least going to be a professional goaltender. Where he goes from there, the sky's sort of the limit with him, but you at least have that base knowledge knowing like he's your safe bet, and he plays such a very technically sound style. I know that's such a cliche, but I put him in the same regard as like a Dustin Wolf, Carter Hart type of goaltender where they're going to be off a few teams' draft lists or further down simply because of his size. He's 6'1", so he's not a tiny goaltender. He's same height as those guys that I mentioned. But it's what he does with his size that excites me, at least. When you actually look at the reasons he's having success, it's his technical details of his game. And it all starts with his skating. Like I said, it really begins and ends there with a lot of goaltenders. And he's able to play just a controlled style. You never feel like he's out of the net when you watch Trey Augustine. That's the part that excites me, right? When you just see him he has to make a bold move, but he's right back in his net. He has very good, what I call net awareness. So he knows where the frame of his net is all the time. So like I said, he's not the biggest guy, but the size he does have, he keeps it within the frame. And that's such a unique thing that you don't see in 17-year-old kids very often at goaltending, at least, right? You tend to develop that later on in your career, but he's got it already. And that's the part that excites me.
Crease awareness reminds me of Michael DiPietro.
Easy
name to throw out there. But okay, Greg, who's got the most upside of any goalie in this draft? Who has the most upside? Because you just talked about it. Augustine, obviously, safe bet. He's going to be a pro goaltender. Who's got the biggest upside?
Well, a lot of people look at the 6'6" Michael Horapel out of the USHL, Omaha Lancers. He's got that potential, right? I compared him in the EP Rinkside draft preview to Ben Bishop. And I know it's a tough comparison simply because he's just a huge guy, but he's able to use that size effectively already, which is another thing, like I said, that with Trey Augustine comes a little bit later for most goaltenders, but he's got it already. So you can sort of build from there already with him, which is the exciting part, right? So a lot of teams will just look at him, see the 6'6" frame, see that he can move a little bit, and be excited by that already and have him way high in their draft ranking simply because of that. They won't even look any further. They're just going to go there. But there are other aspects of his game that are bode well for the next level, because he can't just be a huge guy and expect to do well at the NHL level. So for me, one thing that really stood out with Horapel was his ability to get edges anywhere. So there's actually one clip that I have of him. He's fully splayed out on his back and he lifts up his left leg and he gets an edge and he actually pushes across the crease on his back somehow. Like he's able to get an edge anywhere. And, you know, that's the type of mobility down when you're low and out of position, even for him, where you're still able to move and you're 6'6". Like that's not an easy task for shooters a lot of the time when you have the type of frame moving around the way he can maneuver with his edge work. So that's a guy that you're going to see a lot of people say will have the highest ceiling in this draft, because like I said, you look at that framework, what you can work with that, and man, there's a lot you can do with that. And then there's the guy that you kind of alluded to off the top, who I would like to talk about of it, is Damian Clara, who you won't see maybe atop of a lot of lists, but he's made a lot of ground in the last little while. So Quads, are you excited about this kid?
I mean, yeah, because he's Italian. I honestly I haven't done the draft research because here's the thing, Greg, and you understand this. The draft research I've done in past years, I really liked Kostenvo in his draft year, but I'm always looking at it through the Canucks lens. So I'm not really looking in the first 3 rounds because I don't think we're going to see the Canucks select a goaltender there. So what I'm looking for is the guys in the later rounds that maybe, you know, they're playing behind a porous defense, so their numbers aren't sexy or whatever it is. You know, they have a lot of raw talent. I know that's what Ian Clark really likes to target when he's looking at these goaltenders. So I haven't started my looking at the back of the draft because honestly, it took me a while to find Kostenvo, but then once I did, I was like, yeah, they're definitely taking this guy. Like, this guy is their draft pick. And then sure enough, they took him in the 5th round of that draft. So I haven't really done my draft research, but I do know this Italian kid's there. Tell me about him.
Yeah, if you're hoping for him later in the draft, that might not be a possibility. At least lately, he's getting a lot of buzz, right? He's getting a lot of people talking about him as a high riser of the goalies, at least in this group. You know, he's not a guy that came into the year with a lot of clout, but he's certainly coming into the draft now as it's like a split with him almost. Yeah, I feel like some teams are overlooking him and other teams have him right up there and possibly even top of their list. So I certainly have him higher than most people that I've seen in terms of the rankings. But what really gets me about Damian Clara isn't the fact that he's also 6'6". Yeah, he's another massive goaltender in this draft group, but he can skate. And his finer details of his footwork need a lot of work, which a lot of bigger goalies tend to need some time to figure out. It's a lot of movement going on with those limbs when you're that big, but he's strong, and the types of pushes that he gets, whether it's from reverse VH or even from a standing position, it's a strong push. And he's got that strength already. And what that leads to, and what makes me really excited, is the fact that he beats passes on his feet. So when you're 6'6" and a shooter gets a pass, looks up, and he's already on angle, in position. He doesn't take a lot of depth, but he uses it when he can. But either way, you look at him, there's not a lot of visual net to shoot at. That's going to excite a lot of scouts, right? They're going to see that framework to work with. He's a goalie that you would assume would do really well in, a system that's strong and predictable. He's able to focus on the primary threat. That's the kind of guy I want to get from this draft, right? He's if he's available in the third round, I think that's a time you start looking at taking a guy like Damien Clara. And like I said, he might not even get to that point. If there's a team that has him at the top of their list, he might be the first goalie taken, which is he's probably if this is Vegas betting odds, he'd be the third guy I have as the first goalie off the draft. I'd have Augustine and Hrabal ahead of him, but in terms of top end talent, he's a guy I'd be looking at.
I wonder if there's any dirty betting sites where you can just be like first goalie off the board. Like I've never seen that. Like that it'd be great to get that.
Well, it would be such a crapshoot because you guys know ranking prospects in general is tough, but ranking goalies, it just comes down to which team has a pick in which they would consider taking a goalie, and they have a goalie that they really like that they would consider taking. So it's tough to get them in order when it comes to this time of year, but. For me, Hrabal would be my betting odds favorite to be the first goalie off the board. I personally would take Augustine as the first goalie, but those are the two big names. And then there's the wild card, like I said, Clara.
Can't teach size. That's what it comes down to. Do you have anything else on draft? Because I'm going to start talking now with Greg here.
Just one question about the draft, and it can be a quick one. The first goalie taken off the board last year was 41. You're assuming that I'm assuming because this draft feels a little bit deeper. Do you think a goalie goes ahead of 41 this year? Are we looking towards like the third round potentially? Do you see a guy going in the second? I guess should be my question.
My general vibe, if you're going for the vibe check for the goalies getting taken, as you know, it kind of happens and then there's a run of them, right? So that's who will be the first one to kind of break is the way to look at it. And my general vibe was kind of late second round. You start seeing him come off the board. The last week or so, I've been hearing possibly higher, pick 45, 46, 47. Teams might already start be looking at a goaltender. So that surprised me. I was thinking with the type of class of goalies that it would be a later second round pick. You start seeing them come off, but that's the latest scuttlebutt is some teams might be looking even higher in the early second round range.
Okay, because I was getting excited here, and there wasn't going to be in the first two rounds. It's time the hockey world's coming around to this. But Greg, one thing that you were very early on, and I know this was something that you contributed to Elite Prospects, was talking about some of the free agents that were available. The Canucks end up signing the goalie that you wrote about at the time, Nikita Tolopilo. Let us know about this guy because I look at the Allsvenskan numbers and I'm like, oh wow, they have something here. So do they have something here, Greg?
Yeah, I liked them, from my report that I did, and I didn't know the Canucks would be signing him, at the time that I wrote it, and I had a positive review. He's another guy, he's another massive goaltender. I feel like there's a lot of those that we're talking about these days, but he's a guy who's developed slowly over the past couple of years, and had a pretty good season in that Swedish league, and I just think he's a good project. He's for a guy like Ian Clark. He's sort of your typical, guy that can move a bit already. And, Anders Nilsson kind of brand goaltender that you're looking at. And I think he's got a decently high ceiling. If he could do what he did with Markstrom to Tolopilo, it's, he's got the framework there for it. Whether or not he gets to that point, I think is, he's got some tracking to figure out, which tends to come with working with Ian Clark. You work with him and dominoes start to fall into place. So I think I'm never going to doubt a guy that maybe he had his eye on and wanted to bring into the organization. So that's the fact that I had a positive already review before I knew Ian Clark also wanted to bring him in is, reassuring. But I wouldn't expect him to be, guns a-blazing right as soon as he's going to need an adjustment when he gets to North America. But I think he's definitely a guy down the line you could look at as an option.
I shared that feeling when I had the Koskemvo, when I called out Koskemvo before the Canucks actually drafted him. And I'm glad you brought up Tolopilo because nobody talks about him in this market. Everyone's like, oh, who's the third veteran goaltender going to be? I think you got to go with a split of Seelovs and Tolopilo down in Abbotsford. Demko gets hurt. If that happens, you call up Seelovs. He's ready to start NHL games, but I think he just needs to play games. Like that's my take on Seelovs, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw him at Latvia at the World Championships with Latvia, tournament MVP. My take on him is just that he just needs to play games. And quite frankly, I don't think it really matters if it's in the NHL or the AHL. I think he just needs to play games. So this talk of him, he should be the backup at the NHL level, I don't buy it. I don't think first of all, it doesn't make financial sense if you're ownership, because Spencer Martin's making the same no matter where he is. So I think Spencer Martin's your goaltender at the NHL level. You call up Seelovs if you actually need a starter at the NHL level. I think Seelovs just needs to play. What do you think about the goaltending situation as a whole for the organization?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I don't want to be an arty party pooper, but Sorry, I was workshopping that one with A-Dog behind the scenes. But yes, Artur Silovs is a guy that I have been proved wrong about, I think, recently, and I should have known better than a guy that, again, works with Ian Clark and obviously has the skills that Ian Clark identified as somebody he'd want to work with. So for me, coming into his Canucks career, it was all about the aggressiveness and whether or not he could tone it back a little bit. If those guys tend to get even more aggressive as they struggle and as they feel like the game is faster around them, they feel like they need to get faster, and it's just a bad recipe, and it can lead to a lot of guys going back home real quick. So I had that kind of worry with Silovs when he came in. But again, working with Ian Clark, he's obviously an expert that reeling the game in and using the aggressiveness when you need to, but not necessarily all the time. So he's done an excellent job of adjusting to that style of play, and it's certainly paid dividends, right? You see the consistency that follows. He still has those ups and downs because he is, at the very base of it, a rhythm-based goaltender, right? He plays a lot of reads off the rush. He's still aggressive with his depth a lot of the time, but it's better than it was, right? And you see a little more consistency than you did before, and you're going to need to see a lot more of that if he wants to get to the next level. So I preferred to see, I like the Tolopilo signing, but I would have liked to see a more experienced veteran third option brought in. I know, like a Colin Delia sort of style goaltender. I would have gone even a step further. Instead of spending $800,000-900K on a goalie, maybe spend 1.3-1.4 million on a backup third option, just because you need to have another guy with 50-60 games under his belt that knows how to step in and play. And I feel like a guy I've talked about on the show, I've been really high on in his career, is Anthony Stolarz. I know he's injured now. He's not an option really. But that style of goaltender, a guy maybe under the radar who's been a backup most of his career, but you need someone like that in the organization. And I feel like the Canucks would have benefited from a more solid third option like that, rather than somebody out of Europe that's a project that you're going to work on, and then a young kid, and then Spencer Martin, obviously, who had his struggles last season, who I still think is a capable backup goaltender. You can't look too much into that sample size. The team was a mess in front of him, so I have a lot of time for Spencer Martin and the way he's played, but teams now need 3 goaltenders, right? And I'm less confident that they can do it with the 3 that they have now. I would have liked to see a third option that has a little more experience.
There's a lot of talk about, listen, if Demko does go down, Silovs gets that starter role. But when I first started looking at Tolopilo, I'm like, nobody played more games in Allsvenskan, even though he's young. Like, he had the wheels played off of him. So I'm really curious. And obviously Ian Clark likes this guy. Are we not talking about him enough in the goaltending mix? Because I feel like what he did in the Allsvenskan is damn impressive. Well, yeah, we have on this show. I'm already 40 minutes past the two.
I just you hope those adjustments are quick, right? And what if the Canucks have an injury early on, right? And there you go. He's your option. He's your next guy up. That scares me. That scares me for a team that supposedly is going to have playoff aspirations, right? This is the stuff you have to think about before the season begins. What are our options here? And to me, going into the season, if I was the goalie guy within the organization, I feel a little uneasy. I'd have confidence that I can do it with these guys, but I certainly wouldn't be going in saying, "Yep, we're a team that's set. We got our guys." That's not the feeling I would have going into the season.
Well, Greg, we'll leave you on this because I just want to ask you being a part of what Elite Prospects did with this draft guide. I've loved it the last couple of years. I haven't been on for all 3, but this is, I think, my 3rd year using it. How much fun was it just working with the Elite Prospect guys and being able to contribute the goaltending aspect of it for this year?
Oh, it was awesome. It was big props to JD Burke and the gang, because they brought me in sort of mid-season, and I didn't get to experience the full starting of it all, but just being thrown into it and seeing the amount of collaboration that went on to creating that thing. And you need to have that for it to exist, right? It doesn't exist without that type of collaboration. And it was just really cool to see how everybody had a voice. And it's a tough job being the goalie guy coming into that, right? Because it's there's not a lot of people that you can really talk goalie with, right? You're just everyone just kind of listens to you and say, okay, yeah, but they know a bit more than the average. And even JD had really nice things to say about some of the reports. So I'm very pleased with how it turned out. And I try not to be too negative. I feel like I come across really negative when I talk goalies, because it's a lot of it, you're comparing guys against each other, right? But at the end of the day, these are the best in the world, and you just have to think about that. And this report, I hope, helps guide people in this draft. And there's 32 goalies in it, and I sort of just tried to talk about their basic style and the way that they play and what to expect when you watch them play was sort of the way I went about it. So I do get into detail their ups and downs and what's good and bad about them, but I try to just give you sort of a visual idea also what to expect when you flick on a game and see this kid playing. What style of goaltender are you going to expect to see? So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. It's an incredible guide. What, 1,600 pages, something like that? I got to double check this thing, but just ridiculous for anybody that
Command
wants.
F is your friend.
Well,
for that one.
Greg, you're our friend, and we appreciate you joining here to talk some goalies. It's been way too much for me. I love you, Greg, but goddamn, I'm staring outside the window. It's bright outside. I'm done with this goalie talk.
Attaboy, Greg. We'll see you next week. We'll have you right back.
Oh no,
I was wondering how Fabes was going to take this, so this is exciting. You didn't glaze over at all during my discussion.
If I got closer to the camera, you could see my eyes are watering. I'm just like falling asleep, but the brightness from outside the windows keep me awake here. But Greg, no, in all honesty, appreciate you taking some time and chat some goalies with Quads, and I'm also here too. So thanks. There he is.
Always
Greg.
A pleasure, guys.
Absolutely, Greg. Greg Balloch joining us there from Elite Prospects, not even Sportsnet. We won't even give them a shout too. He's there in the morning as well.
He's good on Halford and Bruff. Really good. I
thought it was funny to hear because, like, how do you go? Because I don't know if you've seen Elite Prospects, but they have their YouTube videos where they show like the live discussions about rankings and stuff.
Mhm.
And I haven't watched all the videos start to finish, but I'm curious to see like when they get to the point where Greg just like says a goalie, does everyone just like, does anyone rebuttal? Like, you know,
exactly.
Or are you just like, okay, Greg's got him at 55. Let's put him there.
I'm surprised JD at one point was like, Quads actually told me he likes that guy. Pick someone else, Greg.
Yeah. All right.
JD doesn't like my goalie takes.
Yeah.
JD and I butt heads quite a bit.
mean,
okay, so Zephyr Epic promo code hockey season is the one you're gonna want to check out there.
Let's
I got some business. I got some business to take care of. You're so ready to go. UFC is coming to Vancouver. The UFC returns to Canada for the first time in almost 4 years with UFC 289. Amanda Nunes versus Aldana at Vancouver's Rogers Arena, Saturday, June 10th.
Amanda Nunes, best female fighter of all time.
I think she's up there.
She's up there for sure.
Ronda Rousey in her prime. Remember, everybody thought Ronda Rousey, but then she went to WWE. It's a long thing. But Amanda Nunes, I would not mess with Amanda Nunes. I wouldn't mess with any of them.
I'm excited. You and I are going to be there watching it.
We are. We will be in the building.
They're not giving Irene much of a chance. I'll tell you that. Everyone's going Nunes here.
Well, Nunes is, like you're right. Nunes is kind of the she's definitely the top fighter and
champion.
Yeah. She's a champion. It's hard. It's hard to pick anybody other than Nunes for any fight that Amanda Nunes is in. Yeah. Okay, so 6 Canadians have been added to this cards. Mike Malott from Burlington, Ontario. Jasmine Jazaduvicius, St. Catharines, Ontario. Well, that's teammate, by the way, we should mention.
Right.
Marc-Andre Burial of Gatineau, Quebec. Eamon Zahabi of Laval, Quebec. Kyle Nelson of Huntsville, Ontario. Diana Belbita, born in Romania, but fights out of Stony Creek, Ontario. Might be talking to Mike Malott later this week as well. So go check it out. UFC 289, June 10th, Saturday on pay-per-view, or at the building below us. I don't know if we can pull up camera 3 here, Aaron. Rogers Arena right there is going to host UFC 289 this week. We are very excited.
We're gonna have a good time. You and I at it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, we can't. We gotta cover it.
We're working.
We can't drink at this thing.
No,
we're working. Yeah,
I'm still gonna get a carved sandwich.
Well, yeah, and I'm still gonna be drinking 4 pops throughout the whole thing. I'll tell you that. I'm gonna have 4 ginger ales.
I wonder. Hey, you know what? And this is no slight against the Canucks, but I wonder what the refreshment situation is like when the UFC is running things and it's not the Canucks.
I tell you what, we'll have to see.
We'll be reporting on it. We'll be talking about it.
I'll be talking about it. Listen, the Canucks, they did a good job. They got 5 different tea options. That's
true.
Pretty good.
Canucks, they
I
like
my
their snack
teas.
bar.
I had the same rotation every Canucks game. First period, pop. Second period, tea. Third period, coffee. Heading down to do post game, tea. Same thing.
The Canucks actually made me start eating veggies because that first season that I was at every game, that was my first year living alone. That was my place to eat veggies. I tried veggies because that was the press box meal. $12 press box meal. Always had some veggies. Gemma Carson Smith also is to blame there. She also made me eat the veggies. I used to skip them at the buffet line.
She's the mother. She's the mother of the press box.
That's right. Okay, let's go.
Well, I didn't really have anything in odds and ends. I wanted to. Let's just. I did notice this. I will bring this up. Dmitry Simashev is the left shot defenseman. He's 6'4". Elite Prospects has him at number 10 on their list. And then you can find this in the draft guide. And by the way, there's we're going to probably be mentioning this draft guide a lot. I just want to say, like, the Elite Prospects crew, what they've done with this, like, it is the best thing before the draft. The amount of hours that these folks have put into work on this it's incredible. It's the best. If you want to learn about the draft, highly recommend it. You just get like the monthly subscription to Elite Prospects or whatever it is, or EP Rinkside. Totally worth it. I get it. After I couldn't believe how good it is. But Simashev comes in at number 10, I think, on their list. And we're not really talking about him a lot because I think the Russian factor is going to be interesting here, because this could very likely be the best defenseman in this draft. Right? He's 6'4". He's one of the top 5 skaters in the draft, according to Elite Prospects. Like, there's a lot to like about this guy, but because he's playing in Russia, you don't really know. And it's not like he's got a KHL contract and he's going to be gone for 4 years like Michkov. But I'm curious to see if the Canucks, the way that they've kind of been moving in the direction of adding a lot of Russians to their team. We've talked a lot about Reinbacher. We've talked a lot about Willander. Listen, I think Simashev, though he's a left shot guy, in the end, he might be the best defenseman coming out of this draft. He just doesn't have to be a right shot guy like we see with ASP or Willander or Reinbacher. So I'm very curious to see if that's a direction where the Canucks want to go. I guess I got to check and double check here and see if he's a Milstein client, because I feel like that'll come into play at some point as well. But just a player to kind of watch here moving forward to the defenseman. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about that as the weeks go on here. But a lot of goalie stuff today, man. I tell you, it would be nice to have a defenseman specialist, right? We don't never get no defenseman specialist on the show. You never hear about that. Nobody's ever defended. We got Balloch coming in here talking goalies nonstop. I tell you, I almost lost it there a little bit.
All right. Well, it was fun to be back in person.
Yeah, we're gonna be back on Thursday as well. Yeah.
Atlas Goods poll question.
We'll have one.
Promo code. Well, hold on. Promo code CC15.
Yep.
Just vote in the chat, folks. Promo code CC15, 15% off your order of Pop Rinds. Be sure to go check it out. Atlas Goods, atlasgds.com, 15% off your order, like I said. Locally owned and operated out of Surrey. The best pork rind straight from microwave or air fryer.
Right.
Do you want a constant Burt cam on the YouTube live show? We had one person say they wanted it. I don't know. I don't think I would want to see someone's puppy all the time. I'll be honest. I say this as a puppy owner. I don't know if I'd want to have that all the time.
No, too much.
So Atlas Goods, go check it out.
Never mind. I'm not going to say
he doesn't do that in the crate.
Okay, I just asked if he did or not.
He doesn't even do that.
I didn't even ask.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You've been talking. You've been talking bad about his potty habit since I got him. When I told you he was going to be potty trained from the day I got him. I told you.
Has he pissed on the floor?
He has once.
There you go. What did I tell you?
Yeah. Okay, you're talking. Okay, whatever.
Once a week. SN Auda asked, meet up in September, visiting from my homeland. The Fabers, they're big back in Holland. That's where my grandparents are from. But we'll work on some meetup stuff. I know we got our sales.
September's tough, but we're gonna figure some stuff out.
September will be tough. I'll tell you what, though, if you're down in Victoria for training camp, I'll see you then.
Come through. Yep.
You're coming to training camp too, I believe, so. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to Young Stars though.
No,
I'll be at Young Stars and training camp and the draft. Come on, development camp. I'll be everywhere.
Yeah, I'll probably go to some development camp days. Okay, we'll close it out there. I got to get home. It was fun being back in person, though.
Yep.
A lot of fun.
We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to try and do 2 shows a week all the way up to the draft, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not the week of the draft because the
little tough.
Why isn't the draft a Friday, Saturday?
Don't even start.
I loved waking up Saturday morning and just having Saturday of like keeping up with. Now you got to do it Thursday while you're at work. I think it's kind of ridiculous, but we've had enough. We've thrown enough daggers at the NHL. So let's wrap this up. Let's get out of here. We'll be back on Thursday, folks. And new time.
12:30. That's the Burt friendly schedule.
It's a Burt friendly schedule. You can get here in person. It's much better. So
and Batters Box podcast, all MLB podcast. I'll plug it more on Thursday. Coming out on Friday.
I'm making the intro.
I'm very excited. Yeah, you are. That's
gonna
gonna
do
be
that
fun.
right after this. Actually.
I'm very excited for that. Very excited. Recorded the first practice episode yesterday with Mike Liu. Yeah. It went really, really well. So
and
I'm
thanks
really excited.
to Greg Balloch as well. Good goaltending stuff in there. Listen, I didn't care for it, but I hope some people enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks to Greg Balloch and Zephyr Epic and all of our sponsors here at
and the
Canucks
UFC
Conversation. And
Saturday.
Saturday. Check them out. UFC 289. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. For my co-host Chris Faber and our technical producer Aaron Bordato, our thanks once again to Greg Balloch. My name is David Quadrelli. Thank you so much to you, the listener, for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Yep, there we go. Fight.
Thanks for listening to Canucks Conversation. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
How about keep it to a thank you, Jim?